up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Scares! That's right, we're back at it on that month-long journey through the nightmares with yet another film to check off that bucket list of terror. And while this is a movie I've never seen before, it's been on my radar for a good 20 years or so. And if I had to pick a single film that I'll be taking a look at all month, this one is the one that I wanted to see the most. It's They Live. They Live is essentially about a lone wanderer that winds up in the wrong place in the wrong time in a town that's acting awfully strange. And when he comes upon a mysterious pair of sunglasses, his world changes forever. For what he sees beyond the lens of the sunglasses is the true reality of our world. He sees subliminal messages on billboards, on TV screens, magazine covers, all telling the world at large to stay asleep, get married, buy products, and conform and agree to everything that society tells them to do. Past that, he also sees some people that are hideous creatures in disguise, and when they discover that he can see them, well, it's time to chew bubblegum and kick tail, and he's all out of bubblegum. This is a film that was made by the legendary horror director John Carpenter. Now, he's definitely the kind of guy that people have praised for a long time for either being one of the best or the best horror director ever. While I humbly disagree. There's plenty of other horror directors out there that I jump at the chance to watch. But Carpenter, it was always kind of a touch and go situation for me. Halloween, for example, I never understood the praise, especially the first one. Later films were better as they really fleshed out that character and made him an iconic slasher, after Carpenter's involvement. But the first film was slow, it was boring, it didn't really show anything, all of that. Plus, you can't really call Halloween a deeply meaningful film by any stretch of the imagination, but They Live is everything. From what I could tell, this film was made in 1988 and it kind of disappeared for a really, really long time until it kind of resurfaced and received popularity again only recently. And the reason why is probably because in a lot of ways it was way before its time. They Live is essentially social commentary about how the world works and how it tries to control people through things like advertisements, controlled or biased media narratives, and Carpenter himself, as well as other outlets, have cheekily said it was more of a documentary than anything, which is a pretty unique way of looking at it, because they really did make it in 1988, which when you think about how old it really is, you begin to realize how brilliant it was, and how before its time it truly was. But it's also old to the point where it feels old. You got like a Dwayne Johnson type wrestling actor in the lead. He's got a mullet. He throws out cringy one-liners after cringy one-liners that you definitely find in any 80s film like this. And even though a ton of this stuff outwardly feels bad, it feels like it's so bad that it's good. And that's really, really important. Now, before I started the review, I did mention that out of every movie this month, this was the one that I wanted to see the most. And the reason why might actually surprise you. About 20 years ago or so, I was really into the idea of writing my own books. And I kid you not, one of my favorite concepts was a story that I came up with called The Unseen, about a guy that legitimately finds a mysterious pair of sunglasses that allows him to see the world as it truly is, and it had something to do with aliens, all of which is beat for beat what this movie is. The only difference was, instead of seeing subliminal messages, my character would see symbols that the aliens left on Earth as a marking to find the planet later for an oncoming invasion. But it's still remarkably similar. It's weird, but when you come up with a story idea and later learn a majority of that idea was done in something else, you kind of lose the will to write it. Just imagine me and one of my other favorite stories called The Sanctum Knights and the Five Deadly Elements, which was about separate superheroes. One can control earth, wind, water, fire, air, and just imagine my face when I learned about The Last Airbender and I blew a gasket. Happens to me a lot, actually. That's partially why I'm trying to get my current movie out as fast as I can before Hollywood steals that one too. What's so weird about this movie is that it's brilliant and stupid all at the same time. The best way that I can try to explain it is it's like a genius concept masquerading around in a so bad it's good plot, following around a beefed up, corny, quippy hero as he plans to save the world. It's definitely weird, and I hardly call it horror. It's only scary in the sense that, if you think about it, the messages that it was trying to convey about society and how they try to control you, that's more of a real-world scary idea. I imagine in 1988, that was just about as thought-provoking and theory-inducing as The Matrix was a decade later. But now, over 30 years later, it's just a silly movie that you can just kind of have discussions about. but it's not exactly scary. My only real problem with the movie was how our lead actor presented himself and his character. He started out very quiet, very subdued, keeping to himself kind of way. And then when he puts on those glasses, he's suddenly an action star with corny jokes, and then there's like a random 5-minute street fight scene with Keith David that seems a bit over the top, but just like everything else in the movie, as weird as this sounds, it all still feels fantastic, and you wouldn't ask for it any other way. It feels right. It weirdly fell into a tight little niche in a way. It's weird. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at my final score for a second, which I have rated this an A- letter grade, final overall score of 85%, 85 out of 100 possible stars. You'll notice that a majority of the highest part of the score comes from my personal or biased opinion, meaning that I had so much fun with the movie as a whole. But you'll also see from my technical, unbiased side of the score, it's not really rated all that highly because it really is a flawed film. Anybody watching would be able to tell you that, it has corny lines, it doesn't have the greatest display of acting, it doesn't have the best visuals. The guy has a mullet, but at the same time, the biased part of your experience just watching the movie, that's what makes it. That's what turns it into a great experience, and one of the best that I've had all month, honestly, even though the overall score isn't the highest of the month. Take that as you will, guys, and let me know your thoughts on They Live if you've seen it. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell to be notified when I come out with the next review. And until then, peace out!